As the Arizona Cardinals prepare for Week 1 versus the New Orleans Saints, today we got a glimpse of the very first injury report of the 2025 season. We also got a tidbit on the past matchups between Jonathan Gannon and Kellen Moore. And guess what? It doesn't shake out very well for Jonathan Gannon. And is Kyler Murray willing to do whatever it takes to put this team on his back in 2025? All that and so much more. Let's dive into it. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back into another video. Definitely do me a huge favor, smack up that like button and subscribe for more Arizona Cardinals content. On this channel, we're covering the Arizona Cardinals news, breaking news, conversational pieces, everything surrounding your favorite team. So subscribe it up. It's absolutely for free. Please don't be one of these guys who love to hover around the channel. Just subscribe it up. We're going to have content for days, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's first start off here with the whole matchup between Jonathan Gannon as well as Kellen Moore. As you already know, Jonathan Gannon has been a defensive coordinator for years in the NFL, and Kellen Moore has been an offensive coordinator for multiple teams in the NFL, and they have gone toe-to-toe with each other in terms of a defensive coordinator versus an offensive coordinator. Now, we did end up hearing earlier today by Jonathan Gannon that so far their matchups has not really worked out well for Jonathan Gannon, and this is exactly what he had to say.
Saw the other day, Kellen Moore had some serious praise for your defense and kind of the creativity you guys have. Does that mean anything to you to see that kind of praise from?
Not really. I have a high opinion of Kellen. If you go back and look at my track record against him, it's not good, truthfully. He's always had really good offenses. He's very creative. I love it. It makes it really hard on a defense how he calls the game. You know, he's been a couple different stops, and his offense is playing a way that's hard to defend. It really is, and not just because he's got good players. You know, take that out of it. Schematically, he's hard to defend. The pace that he plays with is hard to defend. It puts you on your heels, and he's always been ahead of me. So we got our work cut out for it. Now I'm not calling the game, so it's a little bit different, but I got a high opinion of Kellen.
So this question or this answer comes from, obviously, one of the media members end up asking Jonathan Gannon that Kellen Moore speaks very, very highly of his defense, and he ended up coming out and saying that Kellen Moore has had the best of Jonathan Gannon when it comes down to their defenses. Now, one thing that Jonathan Gannon absolutely pointed out is that he is not the one calling this defense. It is going to be none other than Nick Rallis. That is the defensive coordinator for the Arizona Cardinals, and that's going to be the way that, it's going to be shaking out this way as well. We're going to be diving into a specific post that we ended up seeing here, and shout out here to Donnie Durham of, Sports Illustrated. He ended up putting this post out, and it says this: I have a high opinion of Kellen. If you go back and look at my track record against him, it's not good. Arizona Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon wasn't lying. 1-3 against Kellen Moore during their time in the NFC East as play callers. Gannon's defense gave up point totals of 41, 51, 17, and 40. Saints last year started off 2-0 with 91 points scored in that stretch. Now, yes, we all know that the Saints started off really hot last year, but it's a completely different regime, completely different quarterback. We're talking about completely night and day difference when it comes down to the Saints. The Saints are going through a rebuild, but I'm not going to lie to you. These numbers do not make me sleep better at night. We all hear about trap game. This is potentially be a trap game for the Arizona Cardinals. Let's get one thing clear. Those fans and that fan base is going to go into the Superdome and give it their all. They're going to do everything they can to disrupt the Arizona Cardinals offense on the field. And let's be real, it's week 1. Everybody's got high hopes for their team. Now, as of right now, the Arizona Cardinals going into this game are favorites to win over the New Orleans Saints. But like I say, any given Sunday, any given Thursday or Monday, you never know what's going to happen. All I'm expecting from my Redbirds is to come out here and absolutely dominate and take their lunch money. So at the end of the day, glowing remarks from both sides of the coaching staff. But as long as the Arizona Cardinals come out on top, that's exactly what I am looking for. And now let's go ahead and move on over to the very first injury report for the Arizona Cardinals in the 2025 season. And guess what? It looks absolutely dynamite. I don't know if you guys remember, but last year we were dealing with injury on injury on injury on injury. And it felt like every single week there was another guy being put down. I'm just hoping for an absolute healthy season for the Arizona Cardinals. I said this once and I'll say it again. In certain positions, I do feel like we're pretty top heavy. And as long as we can stay healthy, we can make a real big run into the playoffs. But you got to be able to, A, stay healthy and not crash and burn at the end of the season. So overall, we're seeing a good step in the right direction. Obviously, you see John Gaines, a second there, which is not a starting offensive lineman. And then you also do got Will Hernandez on there, which probably eventually will get into the starting role, just kind of really depending on what happens with Isaiah Adams as well as Evan Brown. But this definitely looks very, very good. But now let's take a look at the Saints injury report. You got players on there like Trevor Penning. Like, that's actually not good for them at all, being the fact that he did not practice. And right now we're sitting, 4 days from kickoff. That's definitely something to keep your eyes on. But not only that, former first overall pick Chase Young, defensive lineman, actually left practice today in the New Orleans Saints practice. Now, it did come out pretty optimistic that they're not really worried about it. Now, he did end up leaving practice with calf tightness. Now, with the calf, you never know exactly how it's going to shake out. The calf can heal in a day, it can heal in 2 weeks, it can heal in 3 weeks. You never know. The calf is such one of those big, tricky, you know, injuries that you really can't put a timeline on, right? At the end of the day, the Saints look pretty positive that he is going to be okay, or this doesn't seem like an extensive amount of period. But we're talking about a game in 4 days. Do they really want to get probably one of their best edge rushers in week one and rush him and potentially miss him out throughout the entirety of the 2025 season? We already know he has had injury concerns in the past. So what are the New Orleans Saints going to be doing here with Chase Young? Right now, it seems like everything's okay, but that's definitely something to keep your eyes on. And now let's go and move right on over to Kyler Murray. He ended up speaking to the media earlier this morning with a lot of good tidbits to obviously take away. But let me give a first real quick shout out to the sponsors of the AZ Sports Fan here on YouTube, none other than Sleeper. If you go ahead and use promo code AZSF, they will provide you with 100% deposit match on your initial deposit up to $100. You could do anything on there. You can create your fantasy football league. You can play hires and lowers. You can go ahead and create a really good roster and potentially 100 times your money. Check out Sleeper, proud sponsors of the AZ Sports Fan throughout the entirety of the 2025 season. Everything will be in the description below. And now let's dive right into Kyler Murray's big takeaways that he ended up speaking to the media earlier this afternoon. And I honestly felt like there was a really good interview. Now, here's a big question. Is Kyler Murray willing to do whatever it takes to put this team on his back to potentially be one of the best offenses in the entirety of the NFL? Well, let's dive right into exactly what Kyler Murray had to say. Let's first start off with the very first question when they ended up asking him what, because we've been hearing the erraticness of the offense, sometimes doing a little too much, right? Are we going to be taking what the defense gives us, right? And this is exactly what Kyler Murray had to say.
The easy throw instead of wanting to always push it.
Yeah, I think that's just the maturation of the game. As you get older, talking to Peyton in Denver, just those type of things. You really cherish those, the checkdowns, the throwing the ball away, or taking a sack when you need to, or not taking a sack when just the little nuances of the position that when you're a rookie, second year guy, you don't really understand. You're in college, you don't understand. So just being in that being in that position now as an older dude, knowing what we're trying to accomplish. So again, not always trying to make the flashy play, and I think just keeping the offense on schedule will be fine.
And let me first start off by saying I love the fact that Kyler Murray ended up bringing up the fact that he ended up speaking to Peyton Manning and tried to soak up as much information as potentially, right? Sometimes taking a sack can be better than, doing too much and kind of turning over the ball, right? All these little nuances, like he said, are very, very important to the quarterback position. And not just that, the offense in general, right? The offense is going to go as far as Kyler Murray is willing to take them. Now, he also did mention the fact that he is going to obviously manage the game and takes what the defense gives him. If it's going to be a short pass, and then eventually when the defense, opens up, then there's going to be the shot down the field to either Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison Jr., or Michael Wilson, or heck, even Zay Jones. So I love the fact that Kyler Murray is now starting to kind of, I wouldn't say learn, but now starting to preach this a lot more. So it's telling me that the coaching staff is getting in his ear and saying, hey, this is much more important than you having this big explosive play, because at the end of the day, we just need you to chip along and move this ball down the field. And now in this interview, he also did mention that kind of like he pretty much said talk is cheap, right? At the end of the day, they need to come out here and execute. Now, he didn't say talk is cheap, but he pretty much insinuated that this offense needs to come out into the field and accomplish what he knows that they could accomplish. And if the Arizona Cardinals offense can't accomplish that, he says he wants to be the best offense in the NFL. Well, why not? We got one of the best run games in James Conner. Nobody's got a Trey McBride. Nobody's got a Marvin Harrison Jr. Let's see if it all shakes out here for the Cardinals. Now, another thing I want to go ahead and talk about is that they ended up asking Kyler Murray, what are one or two things that you want to get better from 2024 to 2025? And this is what Kyler Murray had to say.
This year, is there one or two things you'd love to do better just as an entire offense this year, year 3 under Drew, and coming off last year? Is there anything you'd like to do better?
Be consistent as a whole. Be consistent as a whole. Like we've shown flashes, but I want to be the best offense in the league.
And now I absolutely love this response. He said consistency, right? He wants to be consistent on all phases of the offense. And I feel like this is a very important thing for the Arizona Cardinals. We've been preaching consistency forever on this channel. And that's something I want to see from Kyler Murray as well. We're always talking about MVP Kyler, right? In the beginning of the season, and then somehow crash and burn at the second part of the season. I'm really hoping that we can kind of learn from that and take what the defense gives us. But that is one thing that we need to be consistent on the offensive side of the ball. Take what the defense gives us and chip along and score those touchdowns. The Arizona Cardinals can be a very explosive offense if they continue to follow the game plan that's being assessed by Drew Petzing, Jonathan Gannon, and the rest of the coaching staff. And now let's move on to the last thing I want to talk about. Of course, the tune push, aka the actual tush push. Very, very known for what the Philadelphia Eagles has been doing to score very easy touchdowns. And let's be real. But there's a media member that ended up asking Kyler Murray, why hasn't he been in the tush push or the QB sneak, right? Those type of plays. Why are the Arizona Cardinals kind of moving away from that when it comes down to Kyler Murray compared to, let's say, a Clayton Tune, right? And this is what Kyler had to say.
Maybe stature. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Also, I remember I QB sneaked my rookie year against the Falcons, and they were we got the first down, by the way, but they were down there fucking with my fingers and like messing with me and stuff. I told Cliff, I was like, yo, I'm not doing that again. No, but I would do it if we needed to do it. I would definitely do it. I might need to start doing it, to be honest, because we're just touchdowns left and right down there.
So absolutely, I agree with this. I do believe it has more to do with stature more than anything, right? We're talking about a 5'10" quarterback compared to a 6'2" quarterback, 6'3", 6'4" quarterback, right? A guy with a bigger frame that's going to be able to kind of go into a hole and you just literally lean your body down. You need an inch. You're going to get that inch with that over 6-foot guy, right? Unless somebody comes up and screaming and tackling the quarterback. I do believe at the end of the day, it does have to do with that. Now, he also did mention in his rookie year versus the Atlanta Falcons, when he did do a, QB sneak, that although he accomplished the first down, the Dirty Birds, right? The Falcons, they're known as the Dirty Birds. They were messing with his fingers here, saying, like, I'm not sure if they were like trying to, I don't know what they were doing, but they're messing with his fingers. So he ended up going to Cliff Kingsbury and said, hey, I'm not doing that ever again, right? But after he said that, he actually mentioned that he is willing to do it. It almost kind of feels like with this new regime, he is willing to do whatever it takes, right? Whatever it takes to win. So I like that. I like the response that he is willing to do whatever it takes. If it's a QB sneak, if it's going to be a quarterback draw, something in the red zone, because that is going to be available a lot, especially if you're sitting at the 2-yard line or the 1-yard line in the red zone and you just need a yard, a half a yard, right? Whatever the case may be, everything is open for the idea of maybe Drew Petzing can do something like that. So at the end of the day, I love the fact that Kyler Murray is coming out here saying that, hey, he's willing to do whatever it takes, especially if it is going to be some sort of tush push or QB sneak. We're going to have to kind of wait and see how it all shakes out and what it potentially could look like. But overall, I like what I've heard today from Kyler Murray. I think I'm just really excited to see what week 1 is going to hold versus the New Orleans Saints. I'm just waiting and hoping for an absolute beatdown, and I can get very, very excited going into week 2 and taking down our arch nemesis in the Carolina Panthers. All right, ladies and gentlemen, what are your overall thoughts on everything we talked about today? Let me know everything in the comments below. Appreciate y'all for tuning in as always. Have a great rest of your day and go Cardinals.